Man, I just wish that I could roll back the tape of time and just figure out where did I go wrong, because we did go wrong in a lot of aspects in choosing our animals in the very beginning. I wish I would have had like you know how you see the devil, the bad devil, and the good angel on your shoulders, just talking to me back and forth, weighing out the pros and the cons of choosing my breeder males for my ball pythons. So hopefully in this video, you can learn from some of the mistakes that we made and the plans that we're using moving forward, just so that you don't have to have that bad guy, but you want the good guy, right? So, hey, stick around for this video, and I hope that it's something that can help you. Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Paul, Spheric Reptiles, and I'm down here in Houston, Texas. I got the pool in the back. I'm here to celebrate a great birthday, 83rd birthday of my mother-in-law. And I'm really excited to just come to you and just discuss some of the things that were on my mind as we're already doing our breeding pairings. I'm sure that a lot of you are. And just how many ball python males do you need for your breeding projects? And I'm going to limit it to the breeding projects because there's nothing to stop you from having any number of snakes, right? You know your footprint, you know how many animals you can take care of. But when it comes to actually specifically choosing a ball python breeding project, I think that it's good to know just how many do you need per female. And in some previous videos like this one right here, I discussed that you probably need like 3 females for every breeding project, where I discussed if you're working a double recessive project, you want a double het female, you want one female that has incomplete dominant traits, and you want one with one of the recessive traits and maybe something that you can grow upon so that you can expand your breeding projects and not get stagnated, right? We don't want to get stagnated, but hey, this one's about the men. This one's only about the men. And so we're going to talk about the male ball pythons, right? They're normally the cheapest. I think that's how it relates in life, right? Females are more expensive than men a lot of the times. I mean, some men are over the top. I'm just not one of those guys. I'm a non-department store shopping, like a thrift store type of guy. I mean, I just feel like, hey, why spend money when you don't have to? And that might be the attitude that you take towards ball pythons outside of all the other things like the racks, the coconut husk, the radiant heat panels, all these things, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, how many ball pythons do you need for your ball python project? Well, I hope that I can get to a number at the end of this, but before I do, what I like to do is cover 5 things that would actually lead you in your thinking, just so that you can start to get more refined in maybe some of your thoughts. And if you're there already, maybe you can use these 5 things to just really weigh what you're doing against it. And I think that's the best thing that we do here at Spheric Reptiles, is no matter where the advice comes from, I take it in. I listen to it and I rationally see, all right, is this something that I can apply to our own collection, or is this something that I don't need? I mean, I think that's what we're doing anyway in the reptile hobby right now anyway, with so much information out there. You kind of have to filter it out and see how it all applies to you, right? So let's get right into it. The first thing that I would like for you to do is don't think about the price when it comes to your male ball pythons. Now, that doesn't make sense because I just said that males are normally cheaper. So with that being said, you can get a more powerful male than you could for the female, which is the whole reason why the males have the emphasis, other than you can put one male to more females so that you can spread those genes across a lot more females and get a lot more clutches versus that one female that can only lay that one clutch of eggs. So if you get 11, that's great. But what if you only get 4, or what if she reabsorbs? Then now you're basically shit out of luck, I guess. But so don't think price. So don't think, oh, this is the cheapest one, let me get it. Oh, this one's so pretty, let me get it. No, what I need you to do is really focus on the plan that you have for these ball pythons. And when you're looking for them, look forward to genetics. So if you're looking at recessive traits or incomplete dominant traits, what I really think that you should do is just really weigh out, all right, so is this the best example of the traits that I want to carry forward? So think the future in mind. So 2 to 4 years, what would I like to do with this animal that I'm looking at right now, right here, to buy, whether it's online at a reptile expo or however you're going to get your ball pythons? I need you to really stop thinking about cheap and think about what you want to do with that animal for a plan. So that's the number one thing, is the plan for this ball python male. And this will make I mean, I think this is one of the things that'll make everything just make sense, right? You got to be able to say, I get it. This is what I need to make my project move forward. Secondly, how many females will you be able to take this ball python that you're looking at right now that just fit in the plan can go to that male? So how many of the females do you have currently in your collection that can go to this one male? So what I'm talking about is you want to be able to spread that male, not just to the ones that you originally see, but this male has to have a little bit more longevity to make those heads, to make those holdbacks, right? So when you're looking, just don't think one-to-one. So I'm going to buy this one male to fit this one female. And I mean, I understand everybody has a different number of snakes, but what I'd like for you to really start thinking so that you can really streamline and just get more fruits of your labor and like your production, really think about that one male with the 4 or 5 females. Now, you may not breed all of those females in one season, as I already discussed in a previous video using the staggered breeding method. But what I am challenging you to do is just really prioritize this male. So say you get a Desert Ghost Hypo male that has Orange Dream Yellow Belly and Black Pastel. Now you got other females that you can make something, maybe direct visuals with, or you can make some heads with. But either way, if you're thinking like this, when you go to look at that male, remember we're talking about cheap versus the future, it'll help you make your decision a little bit more, especially when we're talking about how many male ball pythons that you actually need. I mean, one of the key things that everybody needs to think about, and inevitably, whenever you're a new breeder and you're getting into breeding ball pythons, you buy a lot of animals. But what you really want to hold off on doing is making this alphabet soup of genetics. Things that you don't know what it is. You have to do a 100% genetic shed test for a full panel every single time, and you don't know what you're going to get. Well, when choosing your ball pythons, especially when it comes to pairing up, remember this one, oh, I got to have this ball python. This is my guy. This is my guy. And to these females, then you want to be able to predict what they'll look like before you ever do that pairing, because that's key in helping to achieve. Remember, you got a goal. So you're working towards that goal, and that's key towards you getting just baby steps or huge leaps and bounds towards your ultimate goal and your end game for that project. Number 3, so if you're planning on breeding them, and I'm not talking about just breeding for yourself, I'm talking about breeding to sell either on Morph Market or whatever platform that you would like to use, and or at a reptile expo or show. One of the mistakes I made in the beginning was thinking, what would the financial return be? Even though I got in after COVID, I was like, I'm getting a great deal, but I still wanted to sell my animals for an X amount of dollars, right? Well, don't think like that. That's one of the mistakes I made. And so when I stopped thinking like that, I started thinking like this. I started thinking, okay, so will this male be able to pay for himself, right? So is he going to be able to put in the work that I need him to do to get to my projects, whether it's producing holdbacks or animals that I can sell? See, that's a key thing. When you're trying to build up your projects and determine holdbacks, you still need something that will offset the enormous expense that you'll be dumping into this as a hobby anyway, like in the rats, the reptichip, I mean, the heating cost, I mean, all of this thing, the time cost. So just think about this. So don't just think about the financial, but think about, okay, what's the genetic return that I'll get from this animal? Again, if you buy that powerhouse, super powerhouse male that you know absolutely all of the genetics on, and I would definitely suggest doing a full panel on this male so that you, at least from that endpoint, you know what you're going to get. And that male's probably going to have more genes than your females, but in particularly focus in on the genetic returns. So with my genetic returns, are you going to get something that even pushes your current breeding plans and goals past where they normally would be? I hope so, because if not, what the, I don't want to curse, are you doing? Or what are we doing, right? So just really think about that, and then think about the other things that would come into play, such as your operational opportunities, right? So operational opportunities, the way I look at that with my males is that, okay, so I already have in mind what I want to do with this male. He's been eating, he's been breeding, but are there any other pairings that I'll be able to do to move even forward? So maybe it's the animals from another male's in a female's clutch that maybe you're thinking about, hey, maybe I can incorporate those genes into this male. But see, if you already have the male, then that male will be mature. You'll have him set on a great feeding schedule, which we know how males can be, like, you know, like us. Sometimes they want to eat, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they only think about sex. Sometimes they only want water. Sometimes they don't want nothing at all. But at least you'll know this male and it'll be up to weight so that you'll have more of a documented history on this animal when it comes to actually pairing them up. And I think that's going to play out key for this step. So in thinking about the financial return, just think just bare minimum. Don't try to overthink it like I can make this animal. I bought this animal for $1,000. I'm gonna sell animals for $2,000. No, just think, will this animal be able to pay for itself in the fact that it can produce babies that you're even able to sell, as well as the genetic return. So what will this animal be able to produce in holdback, and as well as selling animals that you would be able to sell, and then your operational opportunities, right? So will this male be able to be applied to multiple females after this initial season of pairing, or will I have to try to sell them to upgrade again? So I think that's the thing that you don't want to do. You don't want to continually upgrade your males, because with each male, if you get a superstar that's a breeder for you, I mean, just a downright diehard breeder, then you really want to try to keep that animal because it gives you more peace of mind and it makes your breeding season a lot shorter. Nobody wants to pair up snakes for 6 months straight to get a clutch of eggs, right? What you would like to do is find that female at the right stage and then pair up that male, and then 3 months later she goes into ovulation, because I'm saying that she goes from 10 to 20 to 30 to ovulation. So in 3 months she reaches ovulation, and then you're talking about 30 to 45 days after that, maybe she has eggs, and then 55 days after that. So within 6 months you have eggs. Whereas if you don't have that good male breeder that you are operationally trying to think about, then it could take 6 months to even get that female to go through ovulation, in which case now you're running that other risk that we've already talked about of reabsorption. So I had to get something to eat and help celebrate with the party and everything, but I definitely wanted to cover number 4 and 5 of what I was talking about. Now for number 4, the biggest part is your female. So you definitely have to know which females that you're planning on breeding. And so when you're going to look for that male, you know, this is your guy. This is your guy. You have to make sure that you get the guy that best fits for your plans and your projects. So your females are your foundation, remember, and your males are your accelerators. So the number one thing that you have to do is make sure that your females are healthy enough. And then when you go to get those males, then the number one thing that you would probably want to consider, if nothing else at all, is just the fact that you are racing against time. And so I think everything is based on a calendar when it comes to ball python breeding. Even if they're indoors, you can breed them year round, but it's still based on a calendar, because the follicular development, that ovulation timing, the pairing success, as well as the, you know, getting your animals to feed all the time consistently just weighs so much. So to answer that question again, like that I asked in the beginning, that we learned from, is like, how many ball python males do I need, or how many male ball pythons do I need? I think that it depends on how many females that you're trying to breed males to. So if you're trying to do 3 or 4 females that are like mature, then I would say you could get away with 1. But more than likely 2 would be the better option, because you might need a backup male, like a Batman and a Robin, so to speak, just because that male that you wanted may not be doing what you want him to do. He might not be pairing, just might be something, right? And I think that happens more than not when you're just starting out. The pairings that you really, really want, you don't get, right? And the parents that you just kind of want, it seems like you get. So I'm not saying that that's like a superstitious thing or anything else. It just seems like it works out that way. I don't know if the animals can tell. Maybe you're checking on them too much. And I'm just talking about me. Like when I say we or you, I'm talking about me. So maybe I'm checking on them too much and just not having the success that I would want to have in my pairings. Like right now, this season, we have some animals that are going into their 5th month, and they still haven't went through ovulation. They're still feeding, and some of them haven't fed. It just presents a lot of issues. So I'm going to say at least 2 males, but knowing the females and setting the number of females that you want, and that would tell you how many males that you need when it gets to this step. So if you're thinking of 3 to 4 females, I would say 1 male and a backup. So a Batman and a Robin might actually help you. But if you double those numbers, then you might have to go with 3 males if you're talking about one project. Yeah, because that makes sense. That makes sense, because that way you wouldn't be limiting yourself and overworking 1 male, and any offspring holdbacks that you had, you would be able to breed them to the other ones, like the other fathers or the other males, hatchlings, holdbacks, and without line breeding them, right? I think that makes sense. You want to prevent as much line breeding as you can, with the exception of when you're trying to maximize those key traits. But even with that, it's still one of those things to where, I mean, just use your better judgment when it comes to the actual number of males. I would say base it on 3 or 4 for one with a backup, right? A Batman and a Robin. And if you double that, say you want to breed 8 females, then you might need 3, and just assuming that one of them's not going to want to go. So of course, the better the males you get, the better your options, not just for this season, but for further pairings. And I think that's it for number 4. For number 5, it always goes back to husbandry. So are your husbandry practices where they should be? Like, do you have problems with humidity? Do you have problems routinely? I'm talking about routinely with feeding, like water changes. Are you getting respiratory infections, those type of things? Because if you are, this number 5 should be your number 1 as to your limiting factor as to what you'll need, because you need to really get that under control, because you want the most vigorous, robust male that you can get without him being overweight. You want a really athletic male, typically around 1,000 grams if you can. That way when they hit that ceiling or they ever stop feeding, because inevitably they might, then they have a better way of falling down and losing weight to where you can still pair them up without it being detrimental to their health. This is just stuff that I feel that we've learned that I'm trying to pass on to you. So in this video, remember, just to recap everything, we discussed, first, don't go for cheap. Go for what you need. Like, really go for what you need, and really try to use the fact that you're buying right now as a bargaining chip. Because in this economy, as we know, not everybody's buying. Don't be a tire kicker. Don't waste anybody's time. I mean, I think that's really important. Secondly, you want to make sure that your male is a banger, right? He's going to be your guy for multiple generations of breeding. So not just for this season, but for the other. And then with that case, you want to make sure that you have a female that's either a double head or something with incomplete dominant traits that will push the project forward. But you hopefully are breeding to a double visual male if you can, or at least a single visual male that's het for the other recessive trait and with some other incomplete dominant traits. And lastly, you want to make sure that you have a female. Remember, I put the video up there for the other one, that you would want to have a female that could either push your breeding project forward. So if you're doing Desert Ghost Hypo, and for one example, then you're adding in a clown or recessive trait to that, so that you can push your projects a little bit further. I mean, if you don't push them that far, even to begin with. So yeah, your females are your foundation, your males are your accelerator. And then just real talk, man. It's hit or miss sometimes. There's no way for you to really figure it out until you go through it. I would say that you could try pairing up around September, October of every year and aggressively feed your snakes through the summer to hopefully develop those follicles in those females that are pushing close, 1,400 grams or 1,500 grams, or at least 2 years or older. But inevitably, it all boils down to the male and if they're willing. So you could have a male that's 1 year, or it could take 2 years for your male to be willing. So, and that's happened in our own collection, so that's the only reason why I'm saying it. But man, I hope this is some information that helps you guys. Let me know in your comments. I really do read all the comments. That's why I respond to them, because I'm looking for ways to improve on what we're doing right now at Spheric Reptiles. And man, I'm telling you, enjoy that time that you spend with your reptiles. And like, this part of the day was just phenomenal for an 83-year-old. I mean, it's just a blessing to be able to share this experience with Miss Alice today. And, she's very, very eager. She tried to bust the pinata with a stick, but at 83, it's a little hard to get that force behind you. But man, I'm telling you, your family means so much. So anytime you can spend some time with them, hug them, tell them you love them, please do so. And if nothing else, guys, hey, take it easy.